Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Pure Nintendo podcast. My name is Jemma, and with me this week I have three special guests from the Pure Nintendo team. Welcome back, Trev.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys last week, so
yeah,
looking forward to this one.
And welcome back, Kirk. Thank you for coming back.
Absolutely. Good to be here once again.
Thank you. And making his Pure Nintendo podcast debut, we have Cody. Welcome, Cody.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining us. And just since it is your first episode with us, Cody, if you wanted to say a little bit about yourself, I know you are a big Pokemon and Zelda fan.
Yeah, no, I'm a Pokemon nut and really, really excited about the Tears of the Kingdom game. So looking forward to talking about that, but a huge fan of both those game series.
Excellent. Yeah. We are all huge fans over here at Pure Nintendo, as listeners would be well aware. And this week we have a few highlights to talk about, from the upcoming Mario movie, which is due out very soon, to the latest E3 news, and of course the latest Zelda footage, which dropped during the week. So let's get into it. Now, briefly just talking about Mario, since it is coming out this week, when this episode airs, it'll be 2 days before the Mario movie comes out. And I just wanted to see, what are our plans? Are we seeing it day one? Trev, you want to start with you?
Just to give you kind of where I'm at theatrically, I just saw the new Ant-Man movie, which had been out for 5 weeks.
Right.
So I waited till the theater was pretty thin.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually just me and my wife. We went in an odd time on an odd day, which was nice because I'm not keen on the crowds, but I may make an exception for this just because it's such a big, release in the gaming industry, like they are. So, and plus, if we have next week's podcast, I may want to talk about it with you. I don't want to be like, well, no spoilers. So,
I know. It'll be just me talking about it. So I do have day one tickets.
Yeah, I think I might catch you like on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the best time for less crowds. So.
Yeah, it's hard to say. What I love at the moment is, and maybe you guys have caught these as well, there's lots of little spots they're doing on various channels. I've noticed them on YouTube, just little teasers, and there's been a bit of extra footage coming out. Have you seen any of these? Like, Cody, have you noticed any of these kind of little ads that are coming out?
Oh, I've seen them just marketing like crazy, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Nostalgia's like coming through from the entire Mario world, so I'm really excited to kind of see how deep they really get into it, because it does seem like they have some pretty not even like they get pretty deep with the character list from like what I've seen so far. So I'm really excited to see which kind of enemies that have in there and stuff like that. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also been a lot of interviews with the main cast. Chris Pratt obviously is among them. And I think it'll be good to finally see the full movie, which he keeps repeating. Just see the movie, because of his whole voice issue. So I'm also keen to see how that plays out, just in terms of watching him or listening to him for an hour and a half and whether that works. But it should be good. I'm very excited. I'm super excited, actually. I'm really pumped. I'm taking my kids to the first night, at least, of the opening day, and they're super keen. So yeah, I look forward to talking about that in great detail next week. Kirk, did you have anything to add about the Mario movie before we move on?
Well, I will be going to see it. I don't know if I'm seeing it day one, because I believe I'm going to try to see this one in 3D. I'm usually not a huge fan of the movies in 3D, but the animated ones I think look really good, and there are just a lot fewer showings in my area in 3D, so we'll just have to wait.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know this was in 3D. I didn't even know that. Yeah.
It seems to be. I was pulling that up and looking, and they do have the digital 3D option when purchasing tickets. So yeah, I guess you will be able to. But you're right, they haven't promoted it that way at all.
No. Wow. Okay. Interesting. I haven't.
Which is too bad, because the last video game movie, well, not the last one, but like Detective Pikachu, I saw that in 3D, and I thought it was really impressive, the effects. So
that would.
And it looks like from the trailer, some of the Mario footage, feels like it could pop in 3D.
Yeah, like the Mario Kart stuff, the Rainbow Road kind of stuff would be pretty amazing, I think.
That looks cool. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It does. Yeah, well, we're all very excited, which is cool. So let's get back to that next week when we have more details. But yeah, that's going to be a big week for Mario fans, at least. But one of the other big events that's now cancelled, sadly, is E3. So we've talked a bit about this over the last few weeks, and Nintendo sort of said they weren't coming. They put out an official statement. We knew Microsoft and Sony weren't going. One of the big ones who was still going was Ubisoft, and during the week they've announced that they have pulled out. So this has led to the actual cancellation of E3, which is kind of huge. Does anyone want to lead us a small discussion on what that means for us in the industry and how we feel about it? Maybe Kirk, you seem to have a lot to say about these things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bummed because I've been to quite a few of them in the past, and I was looking forward to going back. My daughter Sophie is on the staff, and she was going to go with me. In fact, that's one of the ways I enticed her to start writing for Pure Nintendo in the first place. And it was kind of funny because when I sent that to her, she just wrote back and said, bummer, and then said, does this mean we're going somewhere else instead? So we've now booked a mini vacation to Niagara Falls when I was going to be at E3.
That's awesome.
Cover that up somehow. But yeah, it's weird when I look at it online because, a lot of people are like, well, rip E3, it's the death of it. It should have died a long time ago, that kind of thing. And I get that point of view because I think most people saying that are people who didn't go or didn't have the option to go. And to them, it's just, what's the point? Everything happened in 1 week and now it happened spread out across the entire summer or whenever. So there's not a lot of difference. But to those of us who were able to go and be able to meet a lot of the people that we work with all the time and get good hands-on impressions of a lot of the games that otherwise, honestly, we might have skipped over in, when the PR releases come to us. So I'll miss that. I'll miss the discovery of all that. And hopefully they find a way to either come up with a decent replacement or, some other shows pick up where E3 left off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I've noticed exactly the same thing. Everyone is saying it's the death of E3. And they haven't said that. It's not forever cancelled. It's just cancelled for this year. It may not come back. I guess that is a possibility. But at this point, we have to live in hope, I think, that it will return. But yeah, it's true that, there are many other ways to deliver information to us. And that does happen throughout the year. And having not been to one myself, I was very excited to go this year as well. It's definitely a unique opportunity to meet, like I would get to meet you people, like you great people who I work with at Pure Nintendo virtually because I live in Australia, but I also get to meet developers, even indie developers. I think that would be really exciting and get that hands-on experience. Trev or Cody, do either of you have any thoughts, feelings, opinions on this?
Yeah, I think it's just sad. E3, I never went there. But growing up, that was always kind of like the announcement. I remember when like GameCube information started to come out because the internet wasn't like a thing like that it is now. Just like hearing like whispers of what was to come was just always a fun thing. Growing up is like a big nostalgia thing for me, always attributing E3 with like the next games that'll come out for Nintendo and what to be excited about. I remember like the first time I heard about Luigi's Mansion and being like, this is so weird, but this is also so awesome. It's kind of sad that like that won't happen anymore. I mean, but on the flip side, like at least from the Nintendo perspective, I'd much rather these like directs. I know we're going to talk about Zelda in a bit, but like just having that is so exciting. Like just like, okay, I can get this a few times a year. Same thing with like the Pokemon ones as well. So while it's more convenient and I like getting them the information like throughout the year, it is sad that something like E3 that I grew up with, is kind of, if not going away for good, at least going away for a bit. I think it's been, this will be the third. It hasn't been happening since 2021, I think. So, it'll be a few years, unfortunately.
Yeah, they missed 2020 as well. So they've had a few cancellations.
And even longer for physical, because, you take out that weird digital event in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that is a long time. So that would make it 5 years next year, right? Which is, sounding pretty long. That's, great points. Thank you, Cody. And I do love the Nintendo Directs. I think we all enjoy those. I wonder if it's part of our current, I don't know, it feels like we used to be able to wait for things a little bit more patiently, and we would be so excited in the lead up to something like E3 because there would be announceables that we would look forward to. And it was like this huge deal. And now it's like, just generally we like to binge shows. We like to get things immediately off, the internet. It's like, can we no longer wait for things? Do we just need things right now? I don't know. Did you have any thoughts, Trev?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think when we met Monday, that was the news about Ubisoft, and I remember putting that in the show notes, and then less than 48 hours later, it's like, oh, the show itself is canceled, and makes me, with so many people, big guns already known to be out, it makes me wonder, were the organizers putting on a brave face, and they thought, if we just keep promoting it, it's going to happen, or did they know? But I feel bad for. I mean, I went and I was excited to go once, but I feel bad for like you, Jemma, who was excited to go for the first time, or Sophie, or Roger before he left us. He had E3 approval. Would have been a show for him, and I know a couple of the other people on the crew, were talking about it. So
yeah,
it is a sense of loss in the community, even if you're indifferent about it. I think everyone, is grieving in their own way, so to speak, if that makes sense.
It does, totally. And I like the way they were doing it this year with a bit of a, combination of media only and then the public side of things, because that made it feel even more exclusive for me, because previously I would have been a public member, but since joining Pure Nintendo, now I'm a media member, which, that's what E3 used to be back in the day. It was exclusively media before they opened it up. And that would have, that was almost like a dream come true to go to something like that as a media representative. That would have been really cool. But I live in hope. We'll see. And there are other events, I can do something like PAX. But yeah, it's just the big one. I think in our nostalgic minds, it's the big one because it was so important to us kind of growing up, and in the 90s and even early 2000s, it was that one that gave us all the things we wanted, all the things we needed, and we did look forward to it. So yeah, I don't want to say RIP, but yeah, let's just see how we go next year. But let's move on to what I think is the most exciting news of the week, which is the Zelda gameplay footage that we were treated to. It was producer Eiji Aonuma, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, who gave us about 10 minutes of gameplay footage. He played the game Zelda Tears of the Kingdom with us as we watched. And I want to open it up to everyone on tonight and just see what our thoughts were. I guess what our hopes were, as well as what we saw, whether that met our expectations or whether it didn't, or what we would like to have seen. One thing I wanted to point out is that right at the end, he said, let's leave it at that for now. And I thought that was cryptic. Is he going to show us more before it drops, the game drops? I think it's still 40 odd days away. Who would like to kick things off? Maybe Cody, since this is your first show, and since you're a huge Zelda fan, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really pumped about this. I guess my overall impression is it's been so long since the first announcement that this game was happening that I'm just kind of happy that, I'm relieved that we have the same release date. That's like the number one thing. I was worried it was going to get pushed back again. I kind of go back and forth of selfishly, I wanted the game to come out a few years ago. I know a lot of things have happened, but I also don't want them to rush it either. And I know that what a task this was. One, Breath of the Wild is a lot of people, I think, IGN has a top 3 game of all time. In my opinion, it's my favorite game ever, but it's ranked as one of the best games ever. And so to come back from that 16 miles of open world gameplay and to what seems like a bigger game with the islands, it seems like there's somewhat dungeons in this too, which I'm really excited about. I'm trying to be patient with them, but I wanted to kind of have an explanation on, because the last trailer, I think it was in February, Link was, driving a car somehow. That didn't make any sense. He's missing an arm now, which is, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but it's a real homage to Studio Ghibli, the movie Princess Mononoke, which they took a lot of, they really paid a lot of homage to the Studio Ghibli series in Breath of the Wild. And this is another thing I think they're doing too with Link's arm. Cool. They didn't explain anything, which I thought was really, I almost like that. I don't know if this is even a prequel or a sequel of what happened in Breath of the Wild. But at least the gameplay itself, fusing stuff seems awesome. I'm so excited to see the YouTube videos that come together of people that fuse interesting things and what works best. And I know that's going to be like a whole subgenre of the game itself. Like, who can make the coolest weapon? Who can make like so many fans fly as high as it's going to like distract from the gameplay, but in a good way. Like it's going to be something else to do, another like cause of exploration for this world. So I'm pumped about that. And I saw a comment on Reddit, which I thought was hilarious. It was, we haven't had any gameplay yet with this game coming out in less than 2 months. No idea what's happening with the story or anything, but there's a mushroom on a shield. So it's just like, look at it was just so funny when they chose this show. I have no clue what's going to happen in this game, but I'm just as excited as I was before.
Awesome. Yeah. I love all those points. I think you make excellent points, really. And yeah, it's definitely been kept quiet. Like Nintendo's been very, very quiet about any of the details in terms of, exactly what you said. Is this a prequel? Where is this? It's obviously Hyrule, but he did mention, I can't remember the phrase he used, but it was something like a different Hyrule. Like he said, it's not the same Hyrule that we have in Breath of the Wild, so we know that. The Sky Islands are obviously a big feature, and there seem to be a lot more of them based on this gameplay than maybe we had thought initially. I wasn't sure, and I wasn't sure if that was somehow related to previous games where we were living in the sky, but no, it seems to be just a way to really expand the world vertically, which is really interesting and cool. And even the way he showed us how to get to the Sky Islands by reversing time on that rock that fell down, I was like, whoa, okay. Do you just have to watch for rocks to fall down? Or
that's what I was thinking. Is this going to happen like continuously? Like, are there just going to be rocks for every island that we can like move towards?
Yeah.
And also, not just above ground too. The first trailer was underground, so there's got to be like a lot more of that too. I feel like also, which is pretty crazy to think of.
Yeah. Trev, what's your thoughts? Did you get what you wanted from this? Do you think there'll be more, or what's your impressions and hopes? I guess.
I did and I didn't, and I was thinking about this. I apologize if any of this is redundant. I was talking about some of this with Justin. I can't remember if it was when we were together at our last meeting or not, but
that's okay.
Anyway, it'll be new for the listeners. To touch on some of the things Cody said, it has been so long. That last proper E3, 2019, Kirk will know because we watched it together alongside Harrison when the footage was first revealed.
Wow. In
that E3 Direct, and we're like, wow. And that 2019.
That's a long time.
Yeah. 2023. And, granted, there's been a lot of stuff. Who could have predicted, the pandemic and all the effects from that? But like at this point, it's been so long. I just want the game. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I was looking at the footage and I can only imagine a lot of the fun of like some of the new gimmicks and, all the tricks people will discover, all the YouTube videos of just fun exploits or, sort of like we saw with the original game, but I didn't see enough, I guess, to quench my worries that is this like more like a expansion pack or a mission pack? Is it Breath of the Wild 1.5? Mm-hmm. Is it new tricks in the same world? And I think to Cody's point, if I could see like more underground stuff or more proper dungeons or more of the sky, it would kind of allay some of those worries. But, I get too, they got to hold these things close to their chest. So I guess I can't be pleased no matter what they show. I am excited.
Sounds like the definition of every Nintendo fan.
I know. I don't know what I want, but give it to me now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good points, honestly. And that it's interesting to think that maybe the lack of footage can work against it. They're trying to be secretive because they don't want spoilers, I guess, right? And I think, and I've said this before, that this game will probably do well, even if they didn't show us anything. We're probably going to we would at least all go out and buy this. And I think fans would anyway, because it's Zelda. Like, it's the series that many people love, and based on Breath of the Wild, as Cody said, being one of the best, if not the best game of all time, I think a lot of people are very much looking forward to the sequel. But can that work against it in terms of, promotional activities? And, are we seeing enough of this? Is it enough to sort of satisfy our kind of concerns, as Trev just mentioned? And I was just thinking, actually, based on what you just said, Trev, and this is a question for you, Kirk, because we've talked about Fire Emblem previously and how, some of the extra stuff they added, like in Three Houses, kind of distracted from the core gameplay of tactical, RPG fights. How do you feel about Zelda? And do you think that this new fusing feature, which, as Cody said, is kind of like going to have a sub kind of genre all of its own, which I totally agree with, is that going to distract for a player like you? Does that distract from the core gameplay? How do you feel about that?
That's an excellent question. I was actually thinking the same thing the whole time I was watching it.
Right.
I mean, my first impression is that I'm likely to fuse tires onto everything in this game. I'm going to put tires on shields and swords and axes and stumps, and I don't know why. It's going to happen. But I mean, when you think about it, the original Breath of the Wild, and again, an absolutely fantastic game, didn't have that great of a story. It kind of like got to us in bits and bits and bits, and you had those memories that you looked at, but it was tiny. It was a tiny little story in this giant world, and the whole gameplay was in the exploration and the side quests and what can you do with this and what happens when you get here. So I imagine there's not going to be a really big story in this one either. But I did think maybe they're focusing too much on like you said, this whole subgenre of 5-6 years after the game's released, people are still finding new ways to move from here to there. Or if you freeze this block and then hit it and stand on top of it, you can get to this area, which no one else had ever been to before. So there are going to be just countless chances, I imagine, with this new system to be able to do things like that. And for that kind of game player, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. People who want to play this game for 4 years will be able to find something new 4 years down the road. Those of us who want like a straight adventure and you just kind of push through it, maybe it's not exactly going to be our kind of game, but I'm not afraid that I'm not going to enjoy it. The first game was so great, and I had such a good time playing it for I'm trying to remember, maybe 140 hours I put into it. Which seems like a lot, but compared to a lot of people, I'm probably, they would scoff at me if I mentioned that. So I'm going to play it. I'm going to enjoy it. It may not be exactly what I want it to be, but I'm sure there will be enough Zelda elements in there to please everyone.
I gotta touch something. I love that point so much, Kirk. The thing about Breath of the Wild, and I think it's fair to say, like, if you just kind of told someone the story and what you would be doing, it doesn't sound like a good game. Like the story, there's really not much to it. And even like the adventure of like beating the 4 divine beasts, who are all kind of the same thing with like the special Ganon blights. And then like that one final fight with Ganon, like it's especially for Zelda games, it's not that creative, but that's not what makes a game. Well, really, the game is about exploration and kind of exploring and stuff like that. And so I think that's why it still holds up. So I'm with you 100%. Like there wasn't a lot there in Breath of the Wild. And I think that that like Ganon skeleton that they had from the first trailer and kind of hinted at ever since, I'm hoping that something happens with that. And I feel like, I don't know, every trailer, not the gameplay we had, but the 2 trailers we've gotten have been like really dark themed. And so I'm curious if this is like more like a Majora's Mask kind of thing where it's maybe there's something like that incorporated too. But I'm really excited to see like what they choose to do with it, and hopefully they do put a little bit of story too, because other Zeldas, like not this one, but obviously Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, these are like fantastic stories as well, and I would love to see them kind of work on that a little bit too, on top of the exploration and everything else that you get from these Breath of the Wild style games.
Yep, excellent point. And this could be, you mentioned Majora's Mask, which is interesting. This could be the Majora's Mask, version of this particular format that we're seeing, like Breath of the Wild being the first in this kind of new series, and then this being the follow-up, just like we had back in the Nintendo 64 days. because it did look darker, those trailers, and I'm kind of like wondering where that is and what that's about. So it would be interesting to see what happens there. The other ability that Eiji showed us was the ascend ability, where we haven't mentioned this yet, where you can kind of, I don't know, lift yourself up through a ceiling onto whatever's on top of the ceiling, I guess. Like he showed us going into a cave and then ascending onto the top of the kind of mountain around that cave. And he said you could do it for a cage. You know, if you're trapped in a cage, you could come out. What did we think about this ability? It seems to change things substantially in terms of not having to climb mountains and run out of stamina.
I think that's because of the rain, all the complaints about climbing mountains and like falling from rain.
Right.
That was, which is like going to make just like gameplay and this like ease of life so much easier when you're doing these explorations and stuff like that. And also like hopefully to what you were saying before too about getting on top of those islands, maybe that can be a way to kind of like circumnavigate waiting for like a falling rock or something like that. I feel like there's got to be another way to get on those islands outside of just like the rewind function with those rocks. There has to be
yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really considered that. Yeah, but mushrooms on shields, I think I think that was the highlight. So I think, you know, you can see what happens when you put anything on a shield or a sword or an arrow. You know, he showed us just a few, but obviously there's so many different items that we could find. I don't know what meat on an arrow will do. You're going to feed the enemies. I don't know.
Maybe some ham.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of cruel to like shoot meat at an animal from where you got that meat? Like shove it right back in his face. This was your brother. I'm killing you with your brother.
Oh, that's kind of twisted link. That is dark.
This is a dark entry, right?
Yeah, exactly. The other thing was, what was it called? It was using the eyeball on an arrow to kind of heat seek. Cool. He was he was hunting birds and he was missing, so he put an eye on it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Well, now you have something to do with all these extra like items instead of just like selling them for nothing or giving them to Kilton for like now you can actually, there's functions for all the things that you pick up after a while, which I was just like in Breath of the Wild is like, okay, I have all this inventory, but really I can't make anything with most of these things anyways anymore either. So now it's cool that like there's some function with them too.
Yep, exactly. I think that'll definitely help with the exploration and just encouraging people to pick up everything they find, because everything could be something else. And I definitely can't wait to see what Kirk comes up with tires. So
what happens when you put a tire on an arrow?
I don't know. Ooh. It just drives to its destination and
or after you miss, it'll bounce and just keep bouncing and bouncing and rolling until it finally hits something. So you get some consolation.
It'd be like Yondu's arrow in Guardians of the Galaxy. You can just drive it around.
Yeah, that would actually be cool.
Hey, Jemma, to your point about like spoilers, so just for giggles, I type "Tears of the Kingdom," things missed, and I'm looking at some of these video thumbnails. 10 things you missed in Tears of the Kingdom. 20 things you missed. Tears of the Kingdom. 75 new details you missed in Tears of the Kingdom. 100 things you missed in Tears. And these are just the top half a dozen videos. Like people will dissect everything. There's probably a video breaking down every pixel of that mushroom.
I'm embarrassed to say I watched a few of those too.
Yeah.
The fans
did you really miss all 100, or were they just being a little mean?
Some of them were reaches, but some of them were like, oh wow, that's. But you for like one like second that like there's a Korok seed in the background, so it's like, oh, Koroks are going to be back and stuff like that. It was like very like intense, like slow motion watching of it.
They've tripled the number of Koroks.
Oh, that's a lot of Koroks.
But they haven't made the reward any better.
Thanks, Nintendo. I did wonder what it was going to happen, because you know how when he showed us the arrow ability, he put on the leaf first and then he put on something else that made it a frozen, I can't remember what it was. What would have happened if he shot an arrow with a leaf on it? I feel like that would have done nothing. it just would have flapped around in the wind or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
That would have been interesting. Yeah. So there was so much. I mean, considering it was a 10-minute trailer, or not trailer, sorry, 10-minute footage, 10 minutes worth of footage of Tears of the Kingdom, it was a lot was crammed in, really. I mean, he showed off a lot of the new abilities and a lot of the new mechanics. I was worried when I saw him putting together that raft. I mean, the raft was fairly simple, but then the next boat that he did that had fans underneath it and a sail, I'm like, I don't know if I'm that imaginative to put together boats. I don't know. I don't know enough about boats. I'm just like, am I going to be stuck at every river and not know how to get across? I don't know. It doesn't seem to be my forte. I feel like tires on things might be easier. Maybe I'll just, yeah.
now you're talking my kind of game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, needless to say, it was definitely a highlight of the week. And I do wonder whether we'll see more. Do you think his little cryptic ending will mean more, or do you think it was just his way of signing off? That's just what he always says. Any thoughts on that? You said we'll leave it at that for now.
I think we'll maybe see a little bit more.
Yeah.
But probably not as much as we hope.
Probably not. Yeah.
I mean, it's only we're in April now and it's out next month.
Yeah, it was like 40, I think it was 43-ish yesterday. I thought I saw on Twitter. There's a countdown going on. So when this episode launches, it'll be around 40 to 41 or something like that. So yeah, not long, just over a month basically. Yeah. So, and Cody, since you're such a big fan, I did want to ask, are you getting like a special edition or?
I pre-ordered it. So Target had this thing. If you get two, the second one would be like half off or something like that. And my wife and I both play, and she doesn't follow it as linearly as I do. Like she does Korok hunting and exploring, and doesn't really like play the game the same way I do. So I got one for her, one for myself as well. And so I got that a couple months ago. So cool. Yeah, I'll be getting that the day up. I did see the OLED, which looks so cool.
It does.
I'm contemplating getting that too because it looks really awesome. And if there's any kind of Pro controller or anything like that has that same kind of design.
There is. At least here in Australia, I saw there is a Pro controller. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I'll probably get that then too. That looks great.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same thing because I haven't got the OLED Switch, and I keep saying this. I'm sure Trev and Kirk have heard me say this countless times, that I think about upgrading my Switch to something cool, like a themed version, such as the Zelda version. But I always think they're going to release the Switch 2 as soon as I get the OLED version. So I'm like, should I do it? Maybe this is the one. Or, like you said, the Pro controller. I did have my eye on that just yesterday. I'm thinking, that looks pretty sweet. Very, very tempted. So, and in my family, because I have two kids, the three of us play games like Mario Kart and stuff. And I have had a Pro controller since like day one. And I've just given my eldest son his own Pro controller, but my other little one, he just uses the Joy-Cons and he doesn't complain. But I'm like, maybe I could give myself a new one and he could have my old one. So I don't know.
It is so much better.
It is, honestly. It makes a huge difference. I'm like, I can't play Mario. That's why if someone else comes over and like they're not good at Mario Kart and I feel obliged to give them my Pro controller, I just hate playing it with Joy-Cons. I cannot. I'm just like, it's so little. I know you can use two and that's better, but it's just I just like the feel of the Pro controller when I'm playing something like that. Anyway, sorry. Any other thoughts about this whole Zelda gameplay deal that we've been discussing? Any final thoughts from anybody before we move on?
Are we still anticipating the possibility that we're going to get to control Zelda in this game?
That's a good question.
There was on the last trailer, there was the scene at the end where they were like falling and Link was reaching out to Zelda and she said something like, "Link, give me your power." And then it ended. And it seemed like that meant something more so than just, like a quick movie segment. So, but my thought was, we were talking like they're playing it close to the vest and stuff. And, what are we going to, how are we going to feel when it actually arrives? But if they're finally, because people have been asking for that forever. And if we finally get to do that, then that would be the big trump card and people go nuts. I haven't seen a lot of talk about it. I know there was some talk after that trailer came out, but if that is something they're going to do, I'd be wondering if they're going to promote it at all ahead of time or just wait and let people find out when they get the game.
That's a really good point. 'Cause the first trailer, I kind of thought that too. Like when they were walking through the dungeon with the torch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked at all, actually. And that could be one of the reasons why they're kind of playing everything so close to the vest. If that's like the big reveal, that'd make a lot of sense as well. Because even from what they were showing us in this gameplay, it seemed like it was relatively early on. So maybe that was before that happened. He didn't really have any like other clothes or anything like that, or any like advanced weapons, or he didn't have any runes either. So it'd be cool if that's what they would do, because at least in the first trailer, it seemed like they were really like working together. I don't know. Out of all the footage they've released, I still have the most questions about the first trailer, but that's also what I thought was cool too.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder.
I mean, there's some precedent because, like in Wind Waker, I mean, you could like Medley and Mekar, you could control them at certain points, but still operating through Link. So I wonder if it's going to be like something maybe similar, like a kind of on a limited scale.
Yeah.
And even in Spirit Tracks, you could control a version of Zelda, right?
Oh, yeah.
She kind of inhabited different vessels. She was like a spirit that followed you around, but she could inhabit different things, and you could control her that way.
No spoilers, a game came out 8 years ago, but Breath of the Wild, then she was kind of coaching Link through the final battle too. So maybe they kind of take it from there when she was like giving him that like can't miss arrow, the unlimited arrow bow and stuff like that. Maybe that plays a part in it as well.
Oh man, I didn't beat it yet. No, I'm just playing.
You have like 40 days, Trev.
I gotta binge it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, they could use that in their marketing. Like, they could have, if that was a huge part of the game, I think that would, it'd be a tough decision from Nintendo. Do we promote the heck out of this and make it like, this is the game where you get to control Zelda? Or like we're saying, it seems like what they're doing is keeping it very, very much internally quiet as a surprise, which is cool, I think.
I think they're also I think they're so nervous about, like, I don't think we'll get like reviews until like the day before too. Like, I think they're really just going to keep like a lid on everything, just because like it's coming off one of the biggest games ever for Nintendo, and the anticipation for this is sky high. And I know the pre-orders have already been really strong too, but like and I think it will be a really good game. It's going to be hard not to, in my opinion. But like, even if it is just awful, I think they're going to try to hold on, like keep a hold on that for as long as possible too. So I don't know if we get much more information. If anything, honest, I wouldn't be shocked if we don't get anything else really outside of a few like commercials and marketing stuff like between now and the game release.
Yeah. I think that's probably true as well. Yeah, I think it's all speculation up until the release date. Yeah, I think, like you said, reviews probably won't come out till very, very close to the launch. And you're right, they must be feeling pretty nervous. I hadn't really thought about that. I thought, as I said, everyone, we're all hyped at, and you just said this too, that, expectations are sky high. We're all going to get this game, but also it's going to be heavily scrutinized. So there's a lot to live up to. So yeah, it's a tough gig for them, but we'll find out soon enough. So very excited. Well, let's move on then, because that was an excellent discussion on Zelda, all things Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. So let's talk about some of the games we're playing. And just to lead into that, we've also been talking a lot about the eShop recently for the 3DS and Wii U, which has just closed down about a week ago. Did anyone get any final games? I got one, which Kirk recommended. Thank you, Kirk. Called Zara the Fairy.
You're very
the fastest
welcome.
Fairy. Yes, Zara the Fastest Fairy is a little hidden gem on the 3DS. I will say I do love the theme song, and
yes, it's great. It really is great.
And I think more games should have theme songs with lyrics. And the 3D, it's like pretty good, right? Like this game was like $1.50 in Australia, so it's super cheap. And you're basically a fairy flying super fast, trying not to hit trees, trying to collect gems. There's really not much more to it than that. Nope. And I liked how you kind of just go straight into it. You kind of press the A button and then you're a flying fairy. There's no tutorial. There's no, you're kind of like, what do I do? Oh, I steer left and right, up and down. Okay, cool. Collect those things and go faster. Yeah. So that was interesting. Trev, since you weren't here last week, what was your thoughts on this? Because we did briefly mention it, and I know you had talked to Kirk about it at the time when he reviewed it.
On Zara? Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the 3D effect. I like the music. I don't know if Zara is the fastest fairy, but she might be the most top heavy fairy. But no, it's just cool. Like, I mean, it's awesome to have a review on Metacritic for a game like this that nobody would have looked at, that late in the 3DS's life.
Yeah. And we are actually the only Metacritic review of that game.
Really? There you go.
I looked it up this week when I was suggesting it to a friend who was also
yeah.
But yeah, it's pure Nintendo, and that's it. Just our 6 out of 10 and nothing else.
How many copies have you personally sold, Kirk?
Well, I hope at 99 cents. If I can't move a 99-cent game, then I feel like I'm letting the industry down.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little cheap little thing, which I had like $1 something left on my balance at the end of my little shopping spree. So I'm like, yep, I know what to get. So I'm glad I did, just so I can experience it, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good 3-minute before a game, after a game, fire that up, see if you could beat your score and stuff.
Yeah. Very cool. So thank you for that. Did anyone else have any other eShop gems that they wanted to kind of throw out there since it did close just last week? Maybe Trev, did you, because you had a big list. Did you manage to get everything on your list?
Most things. There were some things I didn't, and there were a lot of things like I'd like to own, but like, they're like on Switch Online. And I'm like, well, technically I don't own them on Switch Online but at the same time, emulation virtual, like if my system broke, I mean, would I get it back then? So I had to kind of pick and choose how to budget, but I mostly picked up 3DS stuff, but I did pick up on Wii U an old game called Chasing Aurora, which we reviewed on the site 10 years ago. J-Money reviewed the game. So old, we don't actually have a number score, but his review is pretty positive. So I'm like, hey, $1.99. I'm going to check this out. I haven't actually played it yet, so I don't have anything firsthand. I was more focused on downloading stuff before the cutoff because I'm like, is it going to be closed at like 12:01? Like in the middle of the night? Is it going to close at 11:59? So I was also trying to download updates for games like I don't know, like Xenoblade Chronicles X had a pretty big update. And I'm like, if I ever pick this game up secondhand, I want to have the patch installed. So.
True. Good point.
Yeah, I pretty much spent that Sunday just downloading every update of a game I thought I might have, all the DLC for games that I had, like one of the Phoenix Wright games. I downloaded some DLC.
Cool.
But yeah, I got a pretty big list of games I got, and like I said, I haven't had time to play. Too many of them. But Chasing Aurora. If you're curious, you can check out our review from 10 years ago.
Yep. Going back in time there. I also picked up, and I said I was going to pick this up, so I'm glad I did. I got Shovel Knight, finally.
Yay.
So that was one, and I've mentioned this last week. I wanted to play for years and years and just never got around to it. I still haven't played it, by the way, but I did download it, so that will be something I'm looking forward to. The other one that I got, I was looking up good tower defense games on 3DS. And because I like a good tower defense game, I thought it's something I was lacking, and I wanted to see if there's anything available. And it suggested Battle Cats, actually, which I have played on my mobile. It's one of the few mobile games I've actually played because my kids were right into it a few years ago. And it's pretty fun. And I didn't know there was a 3DS version of it. So I snatched that thinking, well, my son and, because it's actually 2-player, so my son and I can play that together. Haven't got a chance to try that yet, but I was pretty excited to see Battle Cats because there is a Switch game, but I I don't think it's available here. I mean, you can get it on I think the Japanese eShop, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, that will be one I'm looking forward to. Cody, since you haven't been part of this discussion over the last couple of weeks, did you have any Wii U or 3DS kind of eShop?
I haven't. I'm kind of bummed about it, but I also maybe this is me being an optimist. The games that I would have gotten are more mainline games like that just haven't come to Switch Online yet, and I'm hoping that eventually GameCube, Wii U, and Wii games, and maybe some more expansion from Game Boy as well will start to kind of filter in there too. I don't know, it just kind of seems like the route they're going. So maybe I'm just being optimistic, but that's how I think it'll happen. Because some of the games I wanted, like some old Pokemon games and stuff, I feel like I'll be able to play on Switch pretty soon. At least I hope so.
I think so. I think there's a good chance. Yeah. And Kirk, just to round things out, was there any final eShop kind of titles that you picked up, or that was it?
There were not. I was going to pick up the 3DS especially and just poke around through the store, and I did not do it.
Well, now it's too late.
The closing came and went without me.
Yeah, that's okay. And the world didn't end, so you're okay.
The Switch has quite a few games on it.
It does. Honestly, it does. I mean, could we estimate a number? Because I've been wondering that myself. It's obviously thousands, right? Like, it's huge.
Well, you figure any given week, there's probably over 1,000 just on sale at a discount. Never mind all the ones that are full price. Like, I can't even navigate through the sales list.
Yeah.
I basically just look through games I bookmarked on my wish list, and that's it.
Yeah. I need to do more of that. You keep mentioning wish lists. I've never done that. And I think that would make things so much easier because I do check the sales page quite often.
You made me think of it, Jemma, just talking about the Wii U and 3DS. Their eShops were so much, I mean, not in terms of the content, the quantity of content, but in terms of like navigation and just aesthetics. Like, they had cool little eShop jingles and, fun little categories. And I mean, it was just easier to navigate. Like the Switch eShop, I feel like is always a chore unless you keep up with it every single week.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I hate it. I agree with you completely. I hate going into the Switch eShop.
Yeah. Cody, any thoughts on the Switch eShop?
I don't love it either. No, whenever I get a code or anything, it's so hard to navigate, especially with the Joy-Con too. So I have to use my Pro Controller a lot of times. So I'm trying to type.
Yeah.
But is it slow for you? Like the left-hand navigation thing, when I'm bouncing down to redeem a code, it'll keep choking on things and it just sticks there for seconds. I'm like, why?
Yes, it does. I don't know why.
We'll save that for another show. Maybe
go
on about for a while about the Switch eShop.
Yeah, it's sluggish, that's for sure. And I miss the little, when you download on the 3DS, probably the Wii U as well, I can't remember, but on the 3DS it had that little eShop little bag person
like
icon thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it'll kind of fill up
slowly.
Yeah. It seemed very slow to me, but Zara filled up very quickly, for example. So
she's the fastest fairy. It's right there in the title.
Yeah. I was very pleased about that. But it was just cute. It's like it was so Nintendo, and they kind of don't do that anymore. I don't know. It's fine, I guess. So what else are we playing this week? I think there's a few titles. I haven't played much this week, so I'll just quickly mention that and Trev, you kind of inspired me because Mario Kart obviously had DLC semi-recently. And I love Mario Kart. It's one of my top played games. I think it's number 3 in my top played games. And I play it quite often, but what I haven't done is gone through and actually got gold trophies in every cup. I just haven't. I don't know why. I used to do that. Back in the day, you had to do that to unlock everything, right? You had to unlock all of the cups to get all the characters. But with the deluxe version, we kind of were given all the characters. But now there are new characters, which I believe you need to complete things to see. And I haven't looked up how to do that because I didn't really want spoilers. I thought, I'm just going to go and get gold and everything and maybe something good will happen. So I'm going through and doing that. I'm trying to do at least 1 cup a day. I've done a handful during the week, especially Mirror Cup is one that I've kind of ignored because we just don't tend to play that very often because I don't like to go backwards or in mirror mode, whatever it is. It's not really backwards.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. So I'm kind of doing that a couple of times a week or every day, doing one cup and getting gold. hopefully 3 stars, but I do my best. So, Trev, what are you playing this week?
Well, wait, before I just want to ask, we got the new character Birdo, and we have at least half a dozen color variants. So you have to beat it with every color of Birdo to be a completionist.
Oh, really?
So,
what?
I'm just messing around.
That would be unique.
I feel like we didn't talk enough about Birdo, though, because we were so focused on the new tracks, but it's always cool to get a new character.
It is. I'm very excited. And I know Gold Mario is one of the characters, and I really want to get him. So I don't know who the others are. I haven't looked it up because I just want to do it myself. So
I've still been playing Mario Kart, too. I think this is my favorite of the waves, the DLC wave.
Mm-hmm. They are very good.
But I'm also... I just posted when this episode goes up, my latest review will be up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also playing for review a game that came out about a week ago, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, called Rakuin Deluxe Edition.
I don't know.
I don't know what makes it deluxe. I noticed a lot of eShop games lately are like Deluxe Edition, Premier Edition, Ultimate Edition. I don't know, but it's a cute little game. It's got really a good color and good character designs. And
what's the genre?
Well, that's a good question. To look at it, at least in the first hour, it looks more like an RPG, but it plays more like a point and click, or even like a visual novel with puzzle elements.
Okay.
So. For if you asked, 80s Trev, what genre is this? I'd be like, it's an adventure game. But if you're asking me in 2023, I don't know if I could pinpoint it to one.
Right.
But
maybe that's the deluxe part.
You roam around, you talk to characters, you ask them questions, you get inventory, you use it on puzzles. It's cute. And that's the reason I took it, is I thought it would be a fun game.
Cool.
That I could play like while my wife was watching, or we could trade off, by location, trade off controllers. So, I don't have any clue how long it is. It's $24.99, so I'm guessing it's maybe a little bit longer than some of the games I review. But hopefully I can play a lot more this weekend, and we'll see if I have a review up by this time next week.
Cool. Sounds interesting. I look forward to hearing more about that one. Was that it for you for this week?
Well, that's my review game. And otherwise, I'm mostly playing. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Old NES games.
yeah, that's cool.
I mostly play Nintendo. I do have other systems, but more often than not, you can find me with a Nintendo controller in hand.
Nice. Cody, would you like to tell us about some of the games you're playing at the moment?
Yeah, sure. My favorite game I've been playing, and one of my favorite ones to be added to the Switch Online for N64, is Pilot Wings. It was one of my favorite games growing up, and even then, when I was like, I don't know, I was like 8, I just found it so relaxing to play. So pretty much Pilot Wings, it's not a complicated game really. You select a pilot. There's like 8 different characters you can use, and you either use a jetpack, a gyropactor, or a hang glider, and then later you have like this wingsuit too. And you just fly around and do like simple objectives. Like you have to fly through certain rings and then land, or like take a few pictures and then land and stuff like that. It's like a flight simulation game.
Cool.
Very not very early 3D, but still the layout's pretty cool for a game that came out in like 96, 97, whenever it did. It's got a nice soundtrack too. It's just the kind of game that you can put a podcast or music on and just play and mindlessly play without having to really think, which I think there's definitely a need for games like that sometimes. A lot of times we'll do that with Super Nintendo games or maybe a Mario Kart or something where you can just kind of play without thinking. This is that game for me. It's just relaxing. And I have never beaten it before. I just will select random levels to play. So now I'm actually trying to actively beat it for the first time. So I've been doing that the last couple of weeks.
That's cool. So you can beat. It's not just it actually has a completion aspect to it.
Yeah, you get you get a high score and you get a medal. So like I want to
Cool.
get like a gold medal for every stage.
Oh, that sounds fun. I can't believe this, but I've never played Pilot Wings 64.
Really?
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it sounds fun. I'm going to check it out.
I concur with everything Cody said. I like the game a lot. And yeah, I like all I haven't played the SNES one a lot, but I like Pilot Wings on 3DS too. So
cool.
It's a fun little series.
Yeah. And when was the late? How many are in the series? Are there others?
I think it's technically just the 3, although in Wii Sports Resort is sort of a Pilot Wing-esque
that's true.
section.
That's
I think it's just the trilogy.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it's time to bring back Pilot Wings. Maybe if more people play the 64 version on the Switch Online.
I was really surprised they brought. I mean, I loved the game, but it was just like a random game I found at the video store and enjoyed it.
Right.
But it wasn't like a cult classic. I think it came out initially with an N64, it was one of the first releases. But
it was
when people talk about N64 games of the past, I don't think many people outside of myself are really thinking about that. It just made an effect on me randomly, but it wasn't really marketed or had any traditional Nintendo characters either. So I was thrilled to see that they brought it back because it cut the line in front of a lot more games that I'm still kind of waiting for N64.
Yeah, interesting.
When you think about it, when it first came out, it's alongside Mario 64. So what's the game people were going to talk about?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just bad timing as a launch title.
Yeah. Did we mention Pilot Wings in our N64 story that we're doing in our magazine, Trev? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I did not. Although I probably should have because I did like the game and still do.
Poor little Pilot Wings getting overlooked again. And I didn't even play it. So I'm going to go play it. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, you're more guilty than any of us.
I know. Shame. For shame. Thank you, Cody. That's great. And Kirk, did you have something that you're playing that you would like to talk about?
I do. Well, first, as I mentioned last time, I'm still trying to catch up on all the games with the DLC that are coming out.
How's that going?
I think just 1 or 2 more paralogs to beat on Fire Emblem Engage before that rolls around. And I'm still trying to catch up on Xenoblade Chronicles before the next wave of that comes out too. But the game I'm reviewing right now, which comes out on April 7th, is a puzzle platformer called The Library of Babel. What I'm liking about this most, it takes place 20,000 years after the extinction of humans.
Cool.
So it's a world populated entirely by robots who at this point have forgotten all about the humans that created them for the most part. But the character that you plays is kind of like an investigator of sorts. He's investigating a murder at this library, which holds all the knowledge of everything. And then a state of emergency is declared. He gets stuck there. And so he's in this very dangerous territory while trying to hunt down this murder. So it's got a very, futuristic sci-fi story. But what I like about it is as a platformer, it's not as much about action as it is stealth. The trick is to hide, not be seen, and to avoid conflict instead of, a lot of twitchy action. And it sort of feels like, do you remember a game? It's been out on the Switch. They've released it on the Switch. It came out a while ago called Flashback.
I love Flashback. Wait, Flashback: The Quest for Identity?
Cinematic
platformer?
Yeah. It was. You're kind of like moving around through little subterranean factories.
Does it play out of this world kind of with the animation?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I love Flashback.
Yeah, and this reminds me a bit of that. In fact, as I was playing this, I thought, this is how I wanted Flashback to play on the Switch when they released the Switch version of Flashback. So I'm enjoying it so far. It comes out, as I mentioned, April 7th, and hopefully I'll have my review right there on release.
I got a wish list in now because I love
It's cool.
Sounds really cool. It's interesting. The name, The Library of Babel, it doesn't sound like a futuristic title. Like Babel to me sounds old school kind of thing, right?
Old biblical.
Yeah. So that's cool. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And now you've added something for Trev to look into.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screenshots. Looks eye-catching.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous too. Yeah, it's great to look at, great to explore, and there are a ton of little things to find along the way. You could just push right through it, but if you're clever and investigate areas that aren't obvious, then you're going to find a lot of cool stuff too. So it keeps you entertained.
Sounds fun. I look forward to reading your review. Thank you. And Cody's given me Pilot Wings to look into, so thank you, Cody.
Yeah, let me know what you think.
Anyone else have anything they would like to say before we close off the episode?
A paper issue of your Nintendo Magazine is being printed as we speak.
Ooh, brilliant.
We can track it in live time to see where it is in the printing process. So can't wait to get it in the mail for you.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a big announcement during the week, actually, that we should mention, because we officially, on our website, posted the news that print is back, which we have talked about on the podcast, but it is officially back. Yes, as Trev said.
This time it's really back, not like
really
before.
Back. It was coming back. It was always coming back, but now it is back, which is so, so cool. Very exciting. Cannot wait to see it in print and start working on the next issue. So look forward to that, definitely. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Trev. Thank you, Cody, for joining me today on the Pure Nintendo podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave us a review or like us on YouTube. Subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And we are on, all the main streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. We'd love to know what you think of the show and if there's anything you would like us to cover. And you can follow us over on Twitter at Pure Nintendo or read all our amazing reviews on purenintendo.com. So thank you again, everyone, and we will be back next week with more fun and games. Thank you and game on.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.